kitchen. So most of you all know that I really love making Gumpaste flowers, and at this time of year I'm currently waiting for all my peonies in my back garden to open up. So I thought this was the perfect time to give you a tutorial on how to make these really pretty open peonies. Let's get started. Okay, so the things that you're going to need in order to make the peony is, first of all, I've got 3 different sizes of peony cutters. I've also got a peony veiner and just a sponge to push the veiner into the gum paste. I've then just got some stamens for the centre, and these ones just have slightly larger ends to them than the smaller ball ones. I've then got quite a small rolling pin and my ball tool. I've then got some 24 gauge wire. I've also got my craft knife, and I've also just got some tools for cutting my wire. I've also got some petal dust in various colours and my floral tape. I've then got my foam mat and also my gum paste. Now today I'm going to use the Squire's Sugar Floral Paste. I've then got some spoons just to lay them in once they're drying. And lastly, I've just got a plastic container, and this is just so that I can store some of my petals while I work on them so that the gum paste doesn't dry out. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to work on is the centre of the flower. Now I've got some of my stamens here and I've got about 20 of them. So I'm just going to put those together. I've then just cut off a small length of the wire, and I'm just going to wrap that around the stamens to hold them all together and just trim that off. I'm then going to make sure that's in the centre and bend those in half so it brings all of the ends together. I'm then going to take the wire again and go around the 2 halves just so that it keeps them closed, and just trim that off. So there we have all our stamens. So I'm just going to open those out slightly. And the next thing that I want to do is just colour those in a light yellow colour. So I've actually got 2 colours of petal dust. So I've got a primrose yellow and a buttermilk, which I'm just going to mix in with them slightly just to give it some different shades. And I'm just going to go over all of those stamens, just making sure that I go all the way down right to the bottom. Now you can make slightly darker yellow. I've gone for quite a light yellow just because I want finished flower to be quite pastel. Okay, so I'm just going to put these to one side for a second, and I'm going to make the centres that are going to go all the way through the middle. All I've got here is just a very small amount of green gum paste. Now I've just coloured this a really light green just because I will be adding some more petal dust to this. I've also got 3 wires. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is prepare the wires. So I've just got some wire tools here. I'm just going to bend the top over on those just to create a small loop. So I'm going to take a really small amount of the green gum paste, around a pea size, and I'm just going to work that so it's into a teardrop shape. I'm then going to pop the end of the wire into some edible glue and just push that in the bottom of that teardrop shape, and I'm just going to use my fingers just to stick those together. I'm then just going to take the small ball tool and just right at the end just flatten the end out and just push on that so that it's not exactly straight. And I'm just going to put that to one side and make a few more. Now I'm going to add 3 of these into the centre of my flower. You might want to add more. Sometimes peonies have 4 or 5 or even 6, so it's entirely up to you how many you want to make. And once you're happy with all 3 of those, I'm just going to pop these to one side just until the gum paste has dried. Okay, so the next thing that I'm going to do is start working on the petals. So I've actually coloured some of my gum paste in this really light pink colour, and this is just a small piece of this so that I'm not working with too much at a time. So I'm going to break some of that off. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just start to roll this out until it's around 5mm in height. I'm then going to stop, and what I want to do is I've cut some wires down to about 4 inches in length, which we're going to thread into each of the petals to put the flower together. And all I want is a slightly raised area on the gum paste so that I can push this in without it being noticeable. So now I'm just going to use my really small rolling pin and just on one side push down on that gum paste. I'm then going to do exactly the same to the other side, but leaving a section in the middle, and I'm just going to work the gum paste out, leaving a small V of gum paste at the bottom. And I just want to roll the gum paste out until it's as thin as possible, still leaving this area with a slightly higher part. And once you're happy with the thickness of the gum paste, I'm just going to take the smallest petal and cut one of those out. I'm then going to put the leftover gum paste to one side in my plastic container just so it doesn't dry out. I'm then just going to bring it in my veiner and lay the petal on there and then just push that texture in. I'm then also going to bring in my craft knife, and what I find with these petal cutters is they're not very frilly, so I'm just going to cut into those. I'm then going to bring in my foam mat and flip that over. I'm then going to use my ball tool, and what I want to do is just feather down all the sides and then also just pull back to create the shape of the petal. I'm then going to take one of my small pieces of wire and just using some edible glue, just dip the end into there. I'm then going to use the section of the gum paste that is slightly thicker and is sitting on the back and just push that wire through. I'm then going to use my thumb and just bend that round slightly to give the petal some shape. And I'm just going to lie that in a spoon just to dry. So all the spoon is going to do is give us a nice shape for the petal. And you might just want to pour some of that gum paste round just to make some of the petals slightly different. So what I'm going to do is do exactly the same process to make all of the petals for my flower. So what I'm going to need is, with my small petal cutter, for my first layer I'm going to use 5 of those. I'm then going to use the slightly bigger one, and I'm going to use this for 2 layers. So my first layer is going to have 6 of these and my second layer is going to have 7. I'm then going to do exactly the same with the larger cutter, and I'm also going to use 7 of these. So I'm going to make all of my petals and leave them all to dry. Okay, so here we have all the petals that we're going to need, and all I've done is just left these overnight just to harden slightly, and so the wires are quite secure in that gum paste. And all I want to do now is just add some colour to these just to make them slightly more realistic. So all I've got here is some dusky pink petal dust and a big fluffy brush, and all I want to do is just take these petals and, using some of this petal dust just at the bottom, working my way up, I just want to paint on some of this petal dust. So I'm going to brush this onto all of the petals in all of the different sizes. Okay, so now all of the petals have had the dusky pink applied to them. What I'm going to do is bring in the pieces for the centre of the flower. So I've got my 3 centres here which I made and the stamen, and all I want to do is just finish off colouring these sections. So I've just got some green petal dust here, and all I'm going to do is just brush this green on and do that to all 3 of them. I've then got a small amount of a darker pink here, which I'm just going to pick up and just brush it onto the end. Okay, so now I've got all my pieces, what I'm going to do is start to construct my flower. Now the first thing is to get the centre ready. So I'm just going to take the yellow stamens and the green centres, and I'm just going to push these green centres through the middle of these wires and just pull those through. So we just want these sitting next to each other. Okay, so once you have the 3 centres in there, you might just want to move some of those stamens around and just make sure they go right around the edge of those, and just pull the 3 of them into place so that they are all next to each other. And there we have the first part of the flower. Now all I'm going to do is just bring in some of my floral tape, and I want to start adding my petals. So all I want to do is take the petals, and you've got the thin wire here, and I just want to bend those back so that the petals are at a right angle to the wire. So I'm going to do that for the first 5 of the smaller petals, and I'm then just going to place my first one up against that center of the flower. Take my floral tape, and all you want to do is pull on the floral tape to make it active, which makes it sticky. And I'm just going to wet my fingers and just put a small amount of water at the end just to make that first part grip. Now what I'm going to do is just wrap that around the center of the flower and that first petal until I can feel that that has stuck. I'm then going to add in the next petal and just wind that round. When I get back to the same place, I'm then going to just add in the next one and do the same for the other two. Now once that first layer of petals is in place, I can then just move these around and just angle them up slightly just to cup that center of the flower and just start to create that open peony shape. Once I've got that first row in, I can then start adding the second row. So here I've got the slightly bigger petals and I'm just going to use 6 of those. So I'm going to prepare all these just by bending that wire back slightly. I'm then going to pick my flower back up, and for the first one of my petals, I'm just going to place it in between where the other two meet, so where you've got this gap, so it's going to close that up. So I'm going to add that one in. To do every time I add a new petal in is just overlap it slightly with the previous one, just so it closes up all those gaps. And what's quite nice about using the floral tape is you can move them after you've added them in. So there's the first 2 layers. So for the next layer, I'm still using the middle size one, and I'm going to use 7 of these. And again, I'm just going to find where one of the joins are on the previous layer and use that to add the next petal. And just as you're going around with the floral tape, all you want to be doing is just pulling it tight with your fingers, which is just going to make it tacky, and this just allows the floral tape to stick to itself. And you might just want to pull the first one that you attached down slightly, just so you can tuck the last one in, just so they're overlapping. So there we have the first, second and third layer, and the last layer that I'm going to add is the larger petals, and I'm going to add 7 of these last ones. And what I want to do is, where these ones are slightly curved up, is just make these ones come out of the bottom so they're slightly flatter. And again, just covering the join of the row before, and just wind that round and attach the second one. I'm then going to work my way all around the last layer. And once all of those petals have been added, all I'm going to do is just wind this floral tape all the way down the length of the wires. Just go around and just move all of the petals into the position that I want. And once you're happy with the position of all of those petals, there you have your open peony. I really hope you've enjoyed this video tutorial and will enjoy making your own peonies, whether you're going to add them to birthday cakes or maybe wedding cakes. If you have, then don't forget to give this video a like, and if you'd like to see more videos like this, then please subscribe. Also, don't forget to hit the notification bell next to the subscribe button, and this will just inform you every time a new video is uploaded. I'll also put a link in the description below to all my social media so you can follow me there, plus a link to my blog where I'll put a list of all the tools that I've used throughout this video. Bye!